What's up, party people? That's right, we're party people today because the Cavs are playing at South Beach. I'm Chris Manning. He's Evan Dammerel. Again, we're going to talk about Cavs Heat, which takes place tonight. And we're going to talk about a couple of things for both Evan and I that surprised us, let's say, about this Cavs team. I don't want to say that we got wrong necessarily, but things that are different than we expected as the season has gone on. Also, thanks again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms that include YouTube. So hit subscribe. Do us a solid and hit subscribe.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Before we get into today's show, just want to let you know that it's brought to you by TrueBill. TrueBill is the new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those that you want to keep. Evan, you're flexing.
Still wearing pink, just in longer sleeves.
Yeah, that's right. Love a pink moment.
Continuity. My bright fluorescent lights make it look white at some parts, so my bad.
It's fine. You know, that's what you're missing out on if you're not watching on YouTube. Go hit subscribe, you suckers. But anyway, Evan, Cavs Heat, that's going to be our first bit here. Heat are fourth in the league in point differential. They are 13-8 on the season as of Tuesday night. They do not play on Tuesday, so they just are coming off a loss to the Denver Nuggets. To the Denver Nuggets in Miami. Cavs have obviously, I don't remember the exact date of when the Cavs last won in South Beach, but it has been a long time. This, to me, is maybe the game I'm most looking forward to this week for a variety of reasons. But before we get into some of the specifics, what are your sort of broad thoughts on this one? Are you interested in it? Do you have any takes on why the Cavs can't win in Miami? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. Some broad takes I have in Miami in general is their Miami Vice uniform should really be their full-time uni set. I know, like, the red, yellow, black, white combo is iconic, but what they're currently working with for the City Edition costumes aren't working for me. I haven't looked ahead to like what Locker Vision has to say while you're talking. I'm gonna look that up, but this Heat team's really good. They don't make a lot of sense because they kind of buck the conventional trends of modern basketball. They aren't really 3-point centric. I wonder sometimes if they regret giving up Goran Dragic for Kyle Lowry, but Kyle Lowry kind of fits in with what they're building here, and I think he just needs some time to gel. But like Lowry's
the Kyle Jimmy friendship is worth it for me, if we're being honest.
Well, Jimmy Butler's just a freak of nature, and I think Miami will always remain like a possible what if in my head of if Colin Sexton doesn't end up in a sign and trade. Like I'd like to see him in Miami because Jimmy Butler is a fan of his, and vice versa. And this is a fun Heat team. They're really freaking good. Them, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Chicago. That's the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference this year. So this is a really good test for this Cavs team. And we talked about how hard this week is going to be for Cleveland. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is the hardest matchup the Cavs have this week. And then after that, Utah, then Washington, then Dallas, if I had to rank them in 4.
Yeah, I think that's right. Interesting about Miami is that their shot profile is just sort of interesting. They're 19th in 3-point rate, but they're second in corner threes. So they're second to last in non-corner threes. But their corner threes for like the bajillion straight year, like basically dating back to 12-13, they've been somewhere between first and sixth in the league in corner 3-point percentage. So that's like the PJ Tucker zone. This is obviously a team that has Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and some guys, but like Jimmy Butler is like the hub of this team. And Jimmy Butler isn't like a volume 3-point shooter. It's not really what his game is, but he's a really good creator. Like this team is, I think, really good. I think there's been some nights where it seems like they're not, maybe playing to their maximum, sort of like effort level every night. Like there's games where like they've kind of lost, they maybe shouldn't and things, but it's a good stylistic test for the Cavs because like they're just gonna roll out smart basketball players. They're incredibly well coached, and like Jimmy Butler, like defending, they're gonna throw Lowry and Butler at Garland. They're gonna throw maybe another one on Rubio when those two guys are in the game together. Like Bam on one of Mobley or Allen is really interesting. I'll be curious to see how the Cavs decide to approach this because if you look at like the starting lineup, it's gonna be Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo. you would like obviously like so Lowry's let's just say it's pretty straight up. For the most part, like maybe like it'll be Butler, maybe it like defends Marketing or Rob, maybe they put Robbins, like whatever they do. Mobley versus Tucker is like such a weird body differential because like PJ Tucker is just like short, kind of shorter, like he's shorter by like NBA 4 standards, not like normal human standards, and he's like thicker. And Mobley is like this 7 foot like lanky, not super built guy yet, and like how they approach that is just going to be really interesting. And then Bam obviously winning Jared. Well, I just want to see as many times as possible, like Darius Garland running a pick and roll with Lowry defending him and Bam defending Jared, because that's just like, if you can navigate that, if you can handle some of that, like it'll say that you are as good as me. Like it'll be a good test for what they are. And then, this is the team that's going to like run out some really interesting lineups. Like it's going to be like Lowry, Robinson, Butler, Tucker, Adebayo. Tyler Hero's having a bounce back year. And like the Lowry, Hero, Robinson, Tucker, Adebayo lineup is like killing it right now. In like the second most used lineup Miami has. So it's a good team, man. I think I'm looking to see if we have a line yet, but I would not be surprised if the Cavs are significant dogs. According to our odds, we do not have an official betting line as of yet. So
can I share why I went, oh my God, quietly to myself?
Yeah.
The Cavs have not won in Miami in 10 years.
So it's what, 20
straight losses to Miami in Miami. Which that's why I quietly went, oh my God, to myself.
Yeah. Oh, I remember like watching some of like the LeBron games in there and just being like, it just felt weird, And it is just
ruined my Christmas the first year LeBron came back and they wore those trash uniforms with like the sword on the chest, and I think it had their first names on the back.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then him and Dwayne Wade were talking like this. And people were saying that LeBron was secretly trying to find a way to finesse his way back to Miami to play with Dwayne Wade. But little did he know he was just recruiting the Cavs legend back to Cleveland just many years after the fact. But the reason I was also making a pondering face is I wonder how Spoelstra defends the Cavs, because this is going to be the toughest team Cleveland has probably faced up to this point defensively, because Kyle Lowry is an amazing defender. He can defend Darius Garland, no problem. Isaac Okoro, you could put Duncan Robinson on because you can respect the fact that Okoro isn't a reliable three-point shooter. And then between Jimmy, PJ, and Bam, like Lowry, Evan, and Jarrett, sorry, I just had a hard time because Lowry and Lowry, that's an interesting matchup in itself too. Like, do you take turns resting one of your players on defense on Lowry Markkanen, because you don't have to get full effort against him, because either he's going to be floating on the perimeter, but if you force him to try and bang down low, more often than not, it's not going to be successful. Like, this could be a really frustrating matchup because JB Bickerstaff has outcoached a lot of really good coaches this year, and I think Eric Spoelstra is going to be one of his biggest tests so far too. So like I'm getting amped up for this game as just a fan of the sport in general. My biases are obviously towards the Cavs, but again, Cleveland hasn't won there in 10 years, which is still incredible for me to think about. So I just don't think it's really going to be sneaking up on Cleveland anytime, or they're not going to sneak up on Miami, because this is just a really well-coached team. They're a try-hard team. I think they take pride in kicking the teeth in of opponents. I know Heat Twitter made fun of my haircut when I made fun of them being faux tough for sitting outside Denver's locker room. And I know they got punked by the Nuggets last night with the Jokic brothers sitting behind the bench, but I don't think the Cavs have the gumption of the Denver Nuggets, even though I don't know, man. It's gonna be weird. Either like this Heat team's gonna come out super flat and they're gonna play down to Cleveland, or they're just gonna absolutely rock their world. And I'm leaning towards the latter instead of the former right now.
Yeah, I don't know if the Cavs. The gumption thing is, I think I would expect the Cavs, unless they're like gassed, to play hard. So like the Nuggets just
this Cavs team plays hard on a night-to-night basis. That's why I like them so much.
Yeah, so like the gumption thing. So too. I think it's just like funny to think about that Evan Mobley was 10 years old the last time the Cavs won in South Beach.
I was 18 the last time they won in South Beach. I was a senior in I was starting my freshman year of college, technically speaking, the last time they won in South Beach. Yeah. That's disgusting.
Yeah. We're old.
Absolutely disgusting. We're old. He's really young, and
we're old. This should be a fun game. I would expect the Cavs will be decent underdogs in this one. We don't have a line yet from our friends at BetOnline, but I would expect they'll be underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
They've obviously been one of the best teams in the league this year at outperforming the spread. They were like first. They've been first or second for most of the year, and I think they're still second as far as I know.
I think they're third right now. I think it's Brooklyn, Chicago, Miami in terms of standing.
Well, no, in terms of I'm talking about against the spread. So like the Golden State was like very much like clearly against Cavs are second, and the third team against the spread. It's a big difference between the Cavs, but the Heat are third against the spread. Interestingly,
it indeed is interesting, Chris. And speaking of Indeed, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Indeed. Well, there's always going to be a debate between LeBron and Jordan, and when it comes to helping you hire all-star talent faster, the GOAT is Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is an unbelievable, powerful hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And with Indeed, you can attract, interview, and hire, again, all in one place. Don't struggle on your own to find quality candidates. Indeed can help you hire the right people right now. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process so that you can find talent with the skills you need through tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. One of the things that Chris loves about Indeed is when he inevitably fires me as co-host of Locked On Cavs, he can post an ad on Indeed to find a new co-host and get matched right away. So if you're interested in Indeed, get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked. Again, get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/locked. Indeed.com/locked. Offer valid through December 31st, which is the end of the year. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Also got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. And look, Built Bar is best tasting protein bar on the market. You know this. We all know this. There's so many great flavors at Built Bar. Like you have cookie dough and they had the coconut marty chunk, which they dropped. They had the mystery flavor. These are low carb, low calorie, low fat, high protein bars. All the flavors are great. We just got a sample pack of the mail with the apple caramel one, and that's really good. They have the ruby chocolate puffs, which is like a berry flavored chocolate on the outside of the puff, and that's really, really good. These are all great. They're a great option when you're hungry. You need some protein after a workout. After you just need a late afternoon snack to kind of get you through the day, Built Bar is a really great option for you. And look, there's still new surprises all month for Built Bar, so go check those out and just dive into some great flavors when you can. Use the promo code LOCK15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Try all the flavors. They're really good. And they have mix boxes if you haven't tried any of them, so please try those. Okay, Evan, so we're going to get into now a segment where this segment and the third segment where we're going to talk about things with this Cavs season that have been different than we expected. So we're each going to do two. We're going to do a rough 5 minutes on the clock for each of these. I'm going to let you go first. Where do you want to start?
Well, you're going to have to give me more than 5 minutes. We all know how this podcast goes. But the
thing buddy, we're on a clock. We have a tight feed here, and I'm cutting you off if you keep rambling. Yeah, that's it.
Just give me the time.
Yeah.
Okay. How much time do I have?
Okay.
All right.
If you start right now,
I love wasting time. So the biggest surprise for me so far is the fact that Lauri Markkanen has been beneficial. I was not high. I will admit I was one of the people who was kind of when I saw the Cavs traded for Lauri Markkanen. I think getting a first-round pick for Larry Nance Jr. was a good thing. I mean, it was clear Larry didn't want to be here. He said as such with the plain dealer, but at the same time, I was not too thrilled to see the return was Lauri Markkanen, who was pretty up and down during his time in Chicago, who was viewed as like the next big thing alongside Zach LaVine and failed to live up to those expectations. But then I started to break things down and realize that Chicago really didn't have a true point guard for the majority of his time with the Bulls. And I was open to the opportunity with having Ricky Rubio, even Darius Garland, but I was also hesitant to say, is Darius Garland going to make the leap? But despite being sidelined with COVID for the better part of the season, or at least 2 weeks. I mean, that is the better part of the season. We're only a month in at this point. Lauri's played really well, and I'm really surprised by that. And I think he's super beneficial. So I was a proponent of saying, yeah, you sign him now. He has a non-guaranteed final year in his contract. But at the same time, maybe you don't warm up to the idea of trading him because a lot of people are thinking, okay, Markkanen could be trade bait to go get like a Harrison Barnes or Jeremy Grant. I'm just listing names that I've kind of heard about that fans are interested in. I've been kind of gauging the interest of what other teams are saying about them. You could make an argument that neither of those players equate to what Lowry is providing, because you also have to provide like another salary to make it work too, whether it's Jetty Osman. If it's those two, I think that's a non-starter for me at this point, because those two are so crucial to Cleveland's offense right now. And just in terms of 3-point shooting. But if it's like even Dylan Windler too, like, yeah, maybe then. But it's definitely interesting to look at the fact that Larry Markkinen has a coach that believes in him and JB Bickerstaff, which is really good. I don't think what Chicago's been rolling with. I just think Billy Donovan was just ready to move on, and so were the Bulls last year. So I just kind of don't take that one. But Jim Boylan just ruins everything he touches. So thank God he's not in Chicago anymore. But it's fun to have him with a coach like JB Bickerstaff. It's also fun to have him with 2 point guards that can kind of get him the rock in certain scenarios that he normally wouldn't see all with the Bulls. And I will say I will gladly eat crow on Larry Markkinen not being a huge contributor and a huge factor in a, dare I say, upgrade over Larry Nance Jr.
I think
Not
it's interesting.
defensively, just
Yeah.
offensively.
Well, I think the
here.
thing with Markkinen for me is that, like, I think if you would have told me this is the role he was going to play, I do not believe I would have that this was true. It's just like a very different, like, he's having to provide much more of a defensive presence. Like, even if they're like, when he gets screened, they're switching with the bigs. Like, they're not asking him to like fight over screens or do things your traditional kind of 3-and-D wing that he's kind of playing would sort of be, because he's like a 7-foot guy who like doesn't have the feet to kind of play that way. It's interesting too that, like, I think just kind of thinking about his numbers the last couple of days as he's kind of shot the three better. He's up to 34% for the year on threes, 39% from the corner, 32% on non-corners. That overall 3-point number is like really not much different than like last year. He was at 41%, which is by far a career high. Like, he's never been like the dead eye 3-point guy. And like some of the lineups with him, like the Sexton one we talked about yesterday's show, has been bad offensively. I'm curious to see how this sustains, but he's certainly, I think, been much, much better than I think we could have expected. I think, like, if we were talking about like who in a vacuum would theoretically fit better into this role as like your starting three, I probably would have said like Larry Nance, just because the defense, the secondary passing, that kind of stuff. But like Markkanen's been good, and I think he's like, there's limitations, I think, in what he does. I'm curious to see how he continues to go. And obviously the COVID thing with him was tricky, but
as a quick follow-up before we hear your...
Yeah, you have a minute and then we're done.
Okay, so do you think we get similar results from Evan Mobley this season if we see Larry Nance Jr. playing alongside him as the starting three versus Larry Markkinen? I mean, I guess also Isaac Okoro as the starting three would be in this scenario too, but do you think you get similar results?
I think Nance probably similarly, just because I think the defense like could theoretically be better, but the offense might be a little more cramped, just because I think teams do respect Markkinen as a shooter a little bit more than Nance. And
Yeah,
Markkinen is willing to shoot at volume in a way that Nance just never has been.
Yeah, that was our biggest hang up with Larry at times, was his hesitancy to shoot threes. And he, granted, would make that up with like some playmaking and some, at least it was tertiary, sometimes some primary playmaking. But I don't know, man. Larry's still young too. I'm interested to see what he'll improve upon, because we talked about yesterday, Jared Allen, kind of what he's getting better at. Maybe there's some room for growth for Larry still too, and maybe the book isn't completely closed on him. So
all right. Yeah. My quick one, I think just we'll do I think this one's a little tighter because we've talked about him a decent amount. It's just that the Jetty Osman thing has happened, because I didn't statistically, like, a bounce back for him made sense. But everything that sort of went wrong for him last year seemed like it was a lot of effort. It was a lot of like his willing to buy in. And it just seemed like he was a guy that just like didn't feel like he fit what they were doing. Jetty Osman is, I think, frankly, just become one of the more important players in the Cavs rotation. He's not like at the level of like a Rubio importance, but like he's like the wing on the bench that they can bring in to shoot and provide spacing and offer a little bit more just kind of openness in terms of what the offense is doing. It just, like, I didn't know, right? Like, I don't think any of us could have predicted that this was going to be a kind of a bounce back year. I just, last year was so bad that it made it really hard to kind of see him reinvigorating himself. And like, there's certainly even parts of his game I think we could see him. I think as a creator, I would be curious to see if his assist usage kind of gets bumped up a little bit. He becomes a little more efficient in that way as the year goes on, but especially as his shot probably cools down a little bit. I mean, he's shooting for the year on 3-pointers like 44%. That's in like the upper like 3% of wings. That's like probably not going to to hold. Unless he just has like a crazy hot year, but like, can he still be effective at stuff as this goes on? It's just like, I didn't expect this Jetty to just like actually crystallize like in a way that he hadn't yet, as he's almost 27. Like, this kind of bump sometimes like doesn't really happen at that age, even if you got to give guys time to develop and whatever. But he's been awesome, and like it's been such like a like there are lots of reasons that this Cavs team like shouldn't be as fun and good as it is, and like he's not maybe a top 5 reason, maybe like top 3 is more accurate, but like I don't think there is functional at times if like Jetty Osman, like if Jetty Osman isn't doing this, like I don't really know what their wing situation looks like, and I think the team's probably much worse off for it, which is a weird thing to say.
It is weird to say because you and I were very down on Cleveland's wing depth situation heading into this year because it was just Isaac Okoro and then a lot of questions because Jetty cast a lot of doubt based on last year. Denzel Valentine, to be frank, sucks, and Lamar Stevens cannot hit a three-pointer to save his life, but he can play a hellacious defense. So there's a little something there, but not a lot of something there. So it's Jetty's been a lot of fun, man. And it's really a shame. Today's sponsor does not have Jetty listed right now in terms of betting odds for
Can I ask you one Jetty question before we go to break?
Killed it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're going quicker, and I appreciate that, but we have things content to do. In terms of Jetty, just a yes or no. Do you think that this? How much of the credit do you think really goes to like because like he's really, really good when he's played with Rubio, and the numbers are really bad when he's not playing with Rubio. So how much of this is like he's getting set up by a point guard who's feeding him in a way that is like actually like emphasizing him?
I think it's a lot of that, and I also think it's the fact that JB and the staff want him to play like Turkish national team Jetty at times too. They encourage him to play like that, and I think minimalizing his role a little bit and just telling him you do X, Y, Z instead of A through Z has helped a lot. So it's a lot of column A, which is Rubio, and a little bit of column B, which is all the other stuff I said too.
Okay, that's fair. Anyway.
Yeah, I love the pause. Anyways, why don't you tell us about today's sponsor, Chris?
Yeah, like BetOnline is the official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and you should go check them out for all the latest props, odds, and lines. They have more than ever before as the football season continues its march to the playoffs, as the NBA season rolls on, and a whole bunch more. It is the #1 spot for all of the sports action this season. All you got to do is head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive their 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code LOCKEDON, all one word. From basketball to football to NHL to boxing to UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Again, use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive that 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All right, Evan, give me your next one.
It's just the fact that Isaac Okoro is kind of stagnated a little bit. And to be fair, his rookie season was weird. It's really hard to go from the NBA draft to quite literally training camp and the regular season within weeks, because let us not forget that the 2020 NBA draft was delayed quite a bit because of the pandemic, and it happened late in the fall. And I mean, yes, Isaac Okoro, ideally the player I wanted. He was pretty good his rookie season. I'd say defensively, he is a stud. Offensively, he had his limitations and question marks. And you and I are hoping to say that, okay, if Isaac Okoro makes this leap in terms of shooting, especially shooting, that's my biggest thing. This is where he can kind of be an X factor for the Cavs. And so far, it's just been kind of mediocre for me. Like, yeah, we're talking about the fact that he's still bouncing back from a hamstring injury, so it's tough. So you can't like really fully evaluate what's going on until you can say he's fully healthy. And like at times last night against Dallas, you saw a little bit of him having a little bit more bounce at his step.
The dunk that he had was the most explosive he has looked all year. And that's where you go, oh, like, is his hammy really feeling good now in a way?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but it's been a little disappointing just in terms of shooting, because it is really disheartening to watch the Cavs when they're on offense, when opposing defenses, whoever's opposing Isaac, will just completely ignore him if he's floating on the perimeter, and they encourage him to shoot 3-pointers. Like, he's getting the Marcus Smart treatment at times. And it's funny you mentioned Marcus Smart, because Marcus Smart really sagged off Isaac when he did that and frustrated
But
Darius.
you mentioned Marcus Smart, and you referred to yourself in the second tense, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, no problem. I try to I stroke my ego however I can, but that's just disheartening to me. Granted, he is still young. He still has plenty of time. Like I said, last season was weird, so I can't think we can really say, okay, we need him to have a dramatic leap from his rookie season to his sophomore season, maybe like some small steps. And we saw those small steps in terms of playmaking, in terms of him getting better as a defender, which is hard to believe. But the shooting is what's really going to hold him back offensively. And I think if he can find other ways to contribute, and I think he will, with Lauri Markkanen back, with Evan Mobley fully healthy, with Darius Garland being such a baller out there on a night-to-night basis, I think he can take advantage of the fact that the defensive presence those players command, that he can act more as a slasher and a tertiary playmaker. Maybe he finds his niche that way, but at the end of the day, I'm still a big proponent of the Cavs upgrading on the wing position. Like, I like Isaac Okoro a lot as a player. I know my co-host is an Isaac Okoro truther at this point, but if there is an offer out there where the Cavs can make themselves better as a team and the cost is Isaac Okoro, I would say yes. Because I think even though he's good, if there's a clear-cut way to upgrade this wing position for the Cavs and it really pushes the needle towards them being a play-in team, which if it started today, they played Philadelphia first, and they played the loser of the 7-8 game, which I believe – no, they wouldn't play Philadelphia. They played Atlanta first. They played the loser of the 7-8 game, which would either be New York or Philadelphia, in order to secure the 8th seed. If the Cavs want to avoid that mess and just be in the 1 through 6 range, which they won't be 1 through 6, but more like the 5-6 range, and it cost them Isaac Okoro to do it, I'd be all for it at this point. Because, again –
I think that's a little hot for, like, sacrifice, like – you're like, that's a little bit of like sacrifice, like depending on what it is. Like, is it Brandon Ingram? Is it like an actual, like, are you talking about like a Terrence Ross upgrade to get like that?
Terrence Ross is like the low end of the spectrum. Terrence Ross is like, I don't know. I need man. Like a name. If Sacramento called and said, hey, we'll give you Harrison Barnes or Buddy Hield, and it has to cost you Isaac Okoro and a combination of salary in order to match it, and it didn't cost you any picks for your trouble, would you consider it? I would.
The money with this is just so complicated that I just don't even like know how to like.
I'm going to pull up the Kings payroll because I was looking at this today.
All right, we'll do this on another show because we're running out of time, and I want to get to my.
Harrison Barnes is on an expiring contract next year for $18.4 million.
So you're gonna. I just don't know if giving up your last year's top 10 pick for an expiring contract for a guy you might have to like lose is worth it to like get the 6th seed this year. That's not like a gambit teams are often making.
But Chris, this is also your top 10 pick last year that you benched for a non-traditional 3. So I know I'm out of time, but
I'm just saying.
I'm firmly of the mindset that Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen are the only 3 in this quote unquote young core that are completely off the table. Everybody else is available for the right price if it makes things better.
I don't think that's wrong. I just think like if you're talking about like I think trading Okoro for a rental would be like a wild decision. That would be like if it's a rental to make the 6th seed. I think that's like.
I'm saying that is the baseline of the trade, though. You can obviously talk it up a little bit because, yes, you're trading a former top 5 pick here.
Yeah, I'm just there's a lot of like there's just a lot of that I think is very tricky. I don't know if that totally tracks.
Okay, well, what if you get a team like Oklahoma City who calls you and says we'll give you XYZ and a couple?
If I could get like Dort, yeah, but like that's like I need someone that you also control at like a cost if you're gonna do that. Like that's part of this.
Okay.
It just is part of this. We're done with this.
Let's put a pin in this. We'll talk about it some other time.
Yeah, the deadline. My one is frankly just that Evan Mobley is as good as he is already. Well, I just think this is the obvious one. This to me is the one that like I just kind of assumed you were gonna say, so I had backups.
Do you think he is more than just what the box score says?
I'm not. No, we're not. No promotion of people doing things for attention. Evan Mobley.
I say a lot of dumb stuff, man, but God,
I know you do.
Say things that
I know you do. Sometimes I text you and I'm like, Evan, or
Bro, you could just be like, man, you don't say that much dumb stuff. Whenever
You
you're
don't
mean
really
to yourself, I'm like, that's not true, Chris. Stop
I
it.
really don't. You really don't say that much dumb stuff. I'm only just suggesting. I'm gonna take you out of context here. But here's the thing with Mobley. I think I looked at Summer League and was like, oh, this is gonna be a struggle because like he's a big. And like there's certain obviously stuff where like his offensive numbers overall are a little like okay, like they got to go up, and I think certainly like he's adapting the physicality of the league a little bit. I would like love to see like him play like 30 minutes a night just to see if he looks fresher in those 30 minutes, you know? I'm just curious. He's just like already really good in a way that I just don't know if I like kind of expected. And like that might be on me. This might be like a me thing. You know? Like 'cause I looked at him at Summer League and was like, "Oh, I don't know if like this is going to click right away." And then I probably weighed that too much. And then I think about what he is and I thought about the roster. I was like, "Oh, I don't know if this is going to click right away." But it has like clicked right away.
Let's remind the folks at home real quick who Evan Mobley. So to be fair to Evan Mobley, like yes, I was concerned watching him in summer leagues. I'm just like, oh wow, maybe he will take a little time to adapt. And granted, a lot of big men in today's league do take time to adapt. Again, hot take, but let us not forget he was spending most of his time starting alongside Fiondu Kabengele, and he's playing with Project Thomas and Chandler Vaudrin before his knee exploded, and just so many other players and everything else. And it's just really tough to take full stock of it. But like, yeah, no, he's been as good as advertised. He's been as good as we had hoped. But at the same time, it's just I'm excited to see what the potential is there because he's done a lot of stuff that I didn't really expect either, which is like the more exciting thing for me, like in terms of the playmaking or like how adept he's looked defensively. Yeah, there's still some growing stuff that he needs to get back into the swing of things with, but yeah, he's been a lot of fun. And I didn't really think that was that hot of a take. I thought we were trying to go for stuff that like maybe we haven't really discussed much. It's just
Yeah. I don't know if I do. I just don't know if I could like get to, like I don't feel like I have a hot take about this Cavs team aside from the fact that I think like Okoro's fine. Everything else I'm a little just like I think like this is just better than expected, and I'm curious to see if it sustains.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm excited to see where they go from here. Let's close on this. We are 21 games in the season. Game 22 is tonight against Miami. Chris Manning, do you think this Cavs team is a playoff team?
I think they're more likely a play-in team.
I do too.
The top 6 in the East just feels to me like it's still going to be very tricky, right? Like
you have Brooklyn, Chicago,
yep,
Miami,
Milwaukee.
Charlotte's up there. Atlanta's probably going to bounce back.
In terms of like the 538 model, which like had the Cavs like 1%, and then they've been as high as 15%, I think, and they're now at 9% to make the playoffs. Here the Cavs, they're projecting to have a 30 to finish the year with a 35-47 record, which would be 9 over their Vegas win total. The teams ahead of them in the East would include Toronto at 39 wins, the Knicks at 40, the Hornets at 41, the Wizards at 42, the Celtics at 45. And then below them would be the Magic at 20 and the Pistons at 19. And if the Cavs like finish sort of like that, right? Where like they're clearly like better than we thought, but in the in-between of like play-in and play-off or like in the bottom, that wouldn't surprise me too much.
No, it wouldn't surprise me too much either. We had one listener mention us on Twitter saying like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop with this Cavs team. I think it's just because we're cynics because we're Cleveland sports fans in general. But
I tend to think that it is just like
by just like no convention of the word does this Cavs team make sense.
Yeah,
like they shouldn't be as good as they are.
It doesn't like
a lot of it's coaching, a lot of it's just buy-in.
Yeah, if you would have told me that they would have had the injury issues they've had and the schedule they've had, and it would be a game over 500 right now, I would have said that's crazy.
Yep. Especially with how low we were on this team in terms of wing depth, it's really crazy.
Yeah, and like a lot of things are
antithetical to modern basketball, and they're making it work.
Yeah. Things have broken right for them in a lot of ways, and if the schedule like getting easier as it goes on is an aid to them in some way. I think playing and like look, like will they did they get like I don't it doesn't always work this way, but if like let's say like Toronto or one of these other teams just like has really bad injury luck when the Cavs like already kind of get out of the way, and it doesn't work that way, but let's just say it breaks that way. Like maybe this opens the door. Like I think it's a possibility for them to be a playing team, and I think like that. But that to me is like, to finish somewhere like in the 9 to like as high as like you have to get to 10. If they can get to that, would be I think like a 10 or 9 is like realistic, opposed to like 6, 7, 8.
Right now, I think they're 9th. So, yeah, just stay the course, I guess.
Yeah. Where does just I give me just like a rough number. I think we'll do a whole we'll probably do multiple Mobley pods as we go on here. But
yeah.
As far as where does he rank in the hierarchy of why things are the way they are? If you're gonna like put him in like the team MVP rankings, where would he fall?
Oh, this is actually a tough one. I'd say 2 or 3, with Garland's emergence being first, and then it depends on how you feel about JB's coaching on a night-to-night basis.
Oh, I didn't even. I was going player only, but I think JB's he's best coaching job he's probably ever done in this career.
Yep.
I would go. I think I go 3. I think I would go Garland, Allen, Mobley, Bickerstaff, Rubio would be my 5.
I like those rankings too. I think I'd flip-flop Allen and Mobley just because I'm really high on what he does, just because this isn't what I really expected coming out the gates. But Bickerstaff should definitely be up there. Than Rubio definitely deserves some consideration too. Especially this is more impressive is the fact that they're doing this without Colin Sexton really being a meaningful player this year.
Yeah.
It's just good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes, that's going to be it. Again, we'll be back after the Cavs play in South Beach on Wednesday. Their week continues. A busy week for them continues. We'll be doing that, diving into all of that on the next episode of Locked On Cavs. Please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts if you haven't already. Find Evan on Twitter at @am.evan and at Facebook's Right Down Euclid. Find me at CWMRights and at places like Dime Mag over on Uproxx and Fearless Sword as well. But until then, I'm Chris. He's Evan. Be well.